Ever wonder how you give an entire country an economic health check? Is there one big number that can tell us how things are going? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today, the whole idea of national income. Think of it as a nation's annual report card.
So that's the big question, right? How do we actually grade a country's economy? Is it even possible to boil down all the buying, selling, creating, and building that happens over an entire year into a single meaningful number? Economists have been wrestling with this for a long time, and the answer, well, it's pretty fascinating.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll define what this report card really is. Then, we'll start with a big number everyone's heard of, GDP, and see how we have to refine it. We'll also look at the 3 different ways you can count all this stuff up, and finally, we'll get into why this scorecard really, really matters.
All right, first things first. Before we get lost in the numbers, let's just be clear on the goal. What are we actually trying to measure here?
So the core idea is this thing called national income. Now, a couple of phrases here are super important. Final goods and services means we count the finished product, like the car, but not the steel or the tires that went into making it. That's to avoid counting the same value twice. And normal residents. Now, that's a crucial one. This is about the income earned by a country's citizens, no matter where in the world they are. It's about the people, not just the physical place. To get to that specific number, we actually have to start with a much broader and way more famous number. It's the one you always hear about on the news, gross domestic product, or GDP. This is our foundation, our starting point.
GDP is all about geography. It measures the value of everything produced inside a country's borders. It doesn't matter if it's a local company or a foreign-owned one. If the factory is on your soil, its production gets counted in your GDP. It's all about location, location, location.
But here's the thing. GDP is just a starting point. It's a bit of a blunt instrument, you know? To get a much more accurate picture of what the nation is actually earning, we need to make some really important tweaks. We've got to add some things in and take some other things out.
So first we go from domestic to national. We take our GDP number, we add all the income our citizens earned while working abroad, and then we subtract the income that foreigners earned while working here. This shifts the focus from what's made in our country to what's earned by our people. And that gives us a whole new number, gross national product, or GNP.
Next up, we've got to account for wear and tear. I mean, think about it. A country's factories, its roads, its machines, they all get older and less valuable over time, right? This is called depreciation. So when we subtract the value of that depreciation from our GNP, we get the net national product, or NNP. It's just a more honest, realistic picture of the value we've actually created. And this, right here, brings us to the main event. Economists will tell you that national income is really this NNP number, but with one final little adjustment to get it at factor cost. All that means is we subtract things like sales taxes and add in any government subsidies. This gets us to the true cost of producing everything. That final refined number, that's the nation's real report card.
So you might be thinking, okay, that's a huge number, but what does it have to do with me? Well, that's where these ideas come in. Personal income is the slice of that massive pie that actually makes it into the hands of people and families. And disposable income, that's what you have left to either spend or save after you've paid your taxes. So yeah, these giant economic ideas connect directly to the money in your wallet.
So how on earth do they calculate this stuff? Well, here's the really clever part. There are actually 3 different ways to go about it. You can measure what's made, you can measure what's earned, or you can measure what's spent. And here's the magic trick. In a perfect world, all 3 methods should give you the exact same number.
Think of it like looking at the economy from 3 different angles. First, you can just add up the value of everything that was made. That's the product method. Or you could add up all the income that was earned, all the wages, profits, and rents. That's the income method. Or you could just follow the money and track everything that was spent. And that's the expenditure method. Made, earned, or spent, it's 3 sides of the same coin. And that last method, the expenditure one, gives us this famous formula. You've probably seen this before in an economics class somewhere. It's such a powerful little equation because it neatly summarizes an entire economy. It basically says a country's GDP is just the sum of everything everyone spends money on.
Let's just break it down super quick. C is for consumption. That's all the stuff you and I buy, from our coffee to our cars. I is for investment. That's businesses spending on new buildings and equipment. G is for government spending on things like roads, schools, and defense. And finally, X minus M is net exports. Basically, what we sell to other countries minus what we buy from them. Add it all up and you get GDP.
Okay, so we've got the theory down. But this isn't just some textbook exercise. In the real world, trying to calculate this stuff is messy, it's complicated, but it is so, so important. So let's get into the reality check, the challenges, and the ultimate payoffs. What I love about this is the contrast. On one side, you've got these huge headaches for economists. I mean, how do you track black money that's off the books? Or a farmer trading vegetables for services with no money involved? It's tough. But on the other side, the reason we go through all this trouble is because the payoffs are massive. It lets us measure growth, it helps governments make smart policies, and it lets us see how we stack up against other countries. So, to make the number as accurate as possible, economists have to follow a bunch of strict rules. The biggest one is avoiding that double counting we talked about. They also have to exclude what are called transfer payments, like pensions, because that's just moving existing money around, not creating new value. They even have to estimate the value of stuff people produce and use themselves, like a baker eating their own bread. It all has to be accounted for. So, is it worth all the trouble? Absolutely. Despite all the challenges, we do it because we have to. This number, this single metric, helps a government decide on tax policy, plan for the future, and just get a basic sense of whether the country is moving forwards or backwards. It is the foundation for almost every major economic decision. And that brings us to our final and maybe most important thought. We figured out how to measure the size of the economic pie, but a bigger pie doesn't automatically mean everyone is happier or healthier. So the question I want to leave you with is this. What does this scorecard not tell us? What important parts of our well-being get left out of the calculation? Now that's a question worth chewing on.